Hello there. I am back. Back recording my shit podcast. I'm walking around our beautiful city centre as I do it, which is probably a mistake. Any previous ones I've done while trying to walk around and record have been absolutely terrible. But I wanted to give it a go because, one, I'm in the city centre outdoors because I'm not in work, and it's a surprisingly beautiful day, despite the fact we've had the wettest July on record. It's quite pleasant. It's sunny, high teens on the temperature chart, that being Celsius. For anyone who deals in Fahrenheit, I have no idea what that is. And yeah, high teens, possibly even pushing the early 20s on the heat scale. And it's calm, it's pleasant. Sorry. See, that's another thing about outdoors is you're probably going to get a lot of horrendous background noise, like dirty diesel bus engines. But yeah, what am I talking about? Yeah, so it's a nice day. I'm not on work. The reason I'm not on work, as I've previously mentioned, I was doing jury duty for the last 2.5 weeks. But the trial ended yesterday. I still can't talk about it. I can't say anything, but yeah, not an enjoyable experience. I don't really ever want to do jury duty again, put it that way. And so I rang my job yesterday. I was like, well, I'm finished, but I'm going to take Tuesday off because, to be honest with you, I need a little bit of I need to wind down a bit. It was a stressful experience, to say the least. Don't recommend doing jury duty. But yeah, so I have some free time. I may as well record a shitty episode of my podcast while I'm wandering around on this beautiful, beautiful day. I'm totally getting off topic already. What's been going on? Well, because I've been wandering into our wonderful city centre, I might see some things while I'm walking around here. But I did see some lovely things on the way in. I saw a beautiful. The first thing I saw actually was a 296 GTB, which actually, as far as I'm aware, actually lives not too far from where I live. Now I say not too far, a half an hour walk away, which, being Dublin, a half an hour walk, you can go from one of the shittiest parts to one of the nicest parts. Not saying where I live is shit, but it's certainly it's mid-table, and I'm sure a person who owns a 296 GTB isn't living in a mid-table house in the suburbs like me. They're probably living somewhere slightly more salubrious and affluent. But yeah, anyway, a 296 GTB I saw, which the registration was, well, whatever year, 212, whatever, D296, because, why not? Yeah, it's nice. It's nice to see. I think the 296 is it's the best looking most interesting and best looking modern Ferrari since the 458, dare I say. Yeah, no, I'm going to stick with that. I can't think of anything else in between. I suppose the FF came after the 458, so maybe the FF. But yeah, so it's good to see a Ferrari out in the wild, fucking slumming it with us commoners. Yeah, that's the first thing. Who's beeping? Maybe jump out of my skin there. Misuse of the horn. That is I think he was beeping at me because I was walking behind him as he was reversing, but I didn't know he was reversing. But misuse of the horn, one of my biggest pet peeves. That's a topic for another day. What else did I see? Saw a rather lovely E39 B10 Alpina 3.2. Now some will say, go big or go home when it comes to either an M Sport product or an Alpina product. Go for the V8s. If you're going to do it right. But personally, the E39 M5 being an exception because you don't have any choice, but my E39, any BMW that I would personally own and have owned has had a straight six. I think it's part of the character of BMW. I know they've dabbled in all sorts. They've done V10s, they've done V8s. They also have lots of 4 cylinders. But there's something about a BMW with a straight six that it's just lovely. They're lovely engines to begin with. They're so smooth and balanced. So yeah, I think if I was to have an Alpina B10, I'd go for the 3.2 because it has a lovely smooth straight six, and it was mated to a manual gearbox, which is also lovely. And I'm not one to really comment on colour, but I'm going to say it was a dark purple of some sorts. Again, don't quote me on that. What else did I see? I don't know, I'm not good on generations of all Jags, but I'm going to say an early 80s Jaguar Sovereign 4.2. I'll post all these. Obviously I took pictures of all these things. Again, sorry if you can hear me over the horrendous sound of a chugging Dublin bus diesel engine. I'll post all these pictures of these cars I saw on the Instagram, which if you are listening to this, I assume you follow me, but if you don't, car_nosaur, that's CAR_NOSAUR on the Instagram. So speaking of colours, believe it or not, there isn't a whole lot of planning that goes into this podcast, hence why I'm doing it on the fly while I'm walking around town. And because I did it on the fly, again, as much as I don't put effort into it, I do like to write some stuff down, because otherwise it really goes off the handle. And the fact that I'm walking around doing it is risky in itself, so I said I'd best at least compile some notes. But because I did it last minute and on a whim, I had to actually go and purchase a pen. Whoever buys pens? I can't remember last time I bought a pen, but I bought a pen and a jotter, and I went into Eason's to buy a pen, and Jesus, it's just a regular Bic ballpoint, 60 cents. But holy God, the array of colours you can now buy of Bic pens. The decision, I'm an indecisive soul, put it that way. But there's some awful looking grey clouds on the horizon there. Come on, give us at least a day with no fucking rain. Sorry, going off topic again. An array of ink colours. I was tempted by pink because real men wear pink, but I thought pink probably not. There's a nice Honda CBR Fireblade in a Castrol Honda livery. I'll take a photo of that. I saw another super bike earlier as well. It was a Triumph of some description, Triumph 675 or whatever. I'm not a bike. Well, I like bikes, but I'm just not very knowledgeable on bikes. I'm certainly not Triumphs. A UK registered Triumph, being a UK bike, not super surprising. Nice, cool, very cool looking super bike. Would that be a sports bike? 675cc. Oh, sorry, there's some jackhammering. That's really going to piss everyone off. Cool bike, and it parked up and I had a look at it, and he was repping some Pornhub stickers on his motorcycle, because that's cool. Let everyone know you watch pornography. I got it completely gone on topic again. What was I talking about? Oh yeah, the colour of pens you can buy. I was going to buy a pink pen, because real men wear pink, but I thought, like, I don't know, I'm sure you can test drive the pens, but I thought pink mightn't be the easiest font to read. I could be wrong. It could be the cap on the pen was a very light shade of pink. Then the ink itself might actually be a darker hue, which might have made it easier to read. But anyway, I settled on a kind of not your regular run-of-the-mill blue Bic that you normally see, that dark blue, but more of a very pale blue, duck egg blue, if you will. I'm trying to think of a car that would be of a similar shade. Maybe that launch colour that's the Hyundai i30N came in. Blue tack blue. Might be slightly lighter than that. Getting completely off topic again. So I have a pen and paper and a notebook, so I don't go completely book wild and lose the run on myself while I'm walking around trying to record a podcast around what is very busy streets in Dublin City. I guess it is lunchtime, so everyone's probably on lunch, because that's what people do at lunchtime, I think. Fucking hell, I've gone completely. I've already gone off the rails. What was I talking about? I was talking about cars that I saw on the way in. So I saw that Jag Sovereign. It was gold. Again, don't quote me on colours, but it looked gold to me. What else did I see? I saw an E30 320i, but one of those Bauer converted ones, so it's not quite a convertible. I suppose you'd call it a Targa, would you? Which it's a car. I think they did it. What was the previous to the E30? Was it the E21? Was the 3 Series before the E30? But anyway, that and the E30, you could get a Bauer converted car. I say not quite something interesting up here, which I'm going to wander up and have a look at. On what street is this? Off Bagot Street. I should know these things. Going up towards Marion Square. No, not Marion Square, Fitzwilliam Square. God, I'm really, really getting already off topic and rambly. The Bauer converted BMWs were not something I was really familiar with up until maybe 5 or 6 years ago. And there seems to be a lot of them knocking around Dublin and other parts of the world. Only in the last couple of years, like obviously they were done in period, but it seems like people got them, and then took them away somewhere, and now they're all coming out. So I'm getting distracted by the car I can see, which is it's a Jaguar E-Type, which looks like it's an Eagle converted Jaguar E-Type, and the owner's just got into it, so I'm not going to take a picture of it because I think this is already on my Instagram, but he's about to start it, so we'll enjoy the aero pleasure that's. I now realise for some reason, just as that Eagle E-Type was starting up, for some reason the recording stopped, so I was getting all excited about the fact that you were going to be able to enjoy the aero experience with me, which would be a unique part. Well, unique is a strong word, but would differentiate one of these outdoor walking around podcasts to just a regular sitting down inside podcasts. It would have been a full multimedia experience, but then for some reason the recording stopped as that E-Type started up and as it drove away, and it was all I can tell you is it was an aural sensation, and it only added to my earlier statement about how joyous a straight six engine can be. Apologies. Being the idiot that I am, I fucked that one up, and I then continued on because I let a rather large burp out of my one of my the only orifice that burps come out of, which is the mouth. And the reason I did that was because I was saying how I'm not long after my lunch, after also just talking about people being on lunch. What am I talking about? But yeah, I was singing the praises of the sandwich I had, which was from the Green Bench Cafe. I'm not going to repeat the unrecorded ramble I went on, but if you like a sandwich, check out the Green Bench Cafe. It's just off Harcourt Street. I think it's Montague Street. The only caveat to that I was going to say is it gets very busy from about 12:30 onwards, so get there early. Yes, I'm totally off topic again. This really is a terrible podcast. So before the recording stopped, it was at I think 11 and a half minutes, and we're now I don't think it's stopped again. Has it? No, it hasn't. So I've been going again now for another 2 minutes. Jesus Christ, this is terrible. I've promised for a while that this would improve. Someday it will. I was talking about the cars that I saw on the way in before I got completely distracted and fucked up my recording. So I was talking about those Bauer converted BMWs, which seem to have just come out of nowhere in the last few years. And on the BMW front as well, I saw an E90 320 Si, which is probably not the most earth-shattering performance saloon car that BMW ever made, but it was a necessity. They had to. Sorry, I'm burping again. Don't walk around after having such a heavy lunch. There's a modified. There's a Subaru or Toyota. So you got the Toyota GT86 bumbling along Fitzwilliam Square there. With the E90 320 Si, it was a it was a necessity for homologation purposes for the World Touring Car Championship. I think it was something to do with it was engine related. I think it was something to do with the intake, and I think it's carbon. Is it a carbon intake? Don't quote me on that. But something to do with the intake and some other gubbins in the engine, which they had to do to homologate the car for the World Touring Car Championship time. Nice to see. It's glad it didn't look like it was a well cared for example. It was quite tatty. You don't think that someone have it, not know what it is, which would be a shame. Then again, is it really that special? It will be in about 20 years time, just because anything that's got some sort of motorsport provenance and is somewhat obscure is always quite pricey. I'm stopped here now beside a Volvo. Is this an XC90? XC60? XC60, 202 reg, so I assume this is the current one. It's got giant wheels in it, but the front calipers are absolutely massive, and they say Akibono on the front of them. Yes, the front discs are massive. Is this some sort of special XC60? XC60 well, it has a Polestar badge on the back of it as well. It's like Polestar pedals. I'll take some pictures. The back to show the badge, and then big giant Akibono brakes in front of it. It's getting very overcast now. The clouds are a little bit grey. It's going to rain, isn't it? It's going to rain. It's going to rain on my parade. After all my excitement about it being a lovely day, and now it's going to rain. Across the road from this XC60, there is a V8 Land Cruiser, Amazon, which I'll take a photo of as well. I hope these photos aren't stopping or having any impact on my recording. Am I still recording? I'm still recording. Good. What was I talking about? Yes, sorry, the cars that I saw. 320 SI. I saw this wasn't today now, actually. It was just because I just remembered now. Before my time on jury duty. Oh Jesus, hang on. I'll come back to that in a second. On jury duty, I saw a Saab 900S, which was nice. Saloon. Good to see. But sorry, yeah. What I just got distracted by here is I'm still tiptoeing around Fitzwilliam Square. So after seeing that, what I assume was an Eagle Vettel E-Type, here is an original E-Type. This time it is the Eagle one was a Roadster. This is a coupe, red coupe. I think a Series 2, 1967. So that might be Series 1. Again, old Jaguars, not my strong point. We'll do a Google. I'm going to say it's 67. I'm going to say Series 2. I just typed E-Type into Google and it came up E-Type. Swedish musician Bo Martin Erik Eriksson, better known by his stage name E-Type, is a Swedish Eurodance musician, songwriter and record producer. His professional name is based on the Jaguar E-Type sports car. There you go, 57 years old. If you want to find out more about him, you can Google him yourself. Jaguar E-Type. Production versions, Series 1. Oh, it's the Series 1 because Series 1 went from 61 to 68. There you go. So here's a late Series 1, which I will take a picture of now. E-Type. In red, which kind of works. The Roadsters definitely look better than the coupes, I think. The roof, the proportions of the glass house and the roof are a bit awkward, I think, especially when it got to Series 3. But cool nonetheless. I'm speaking of the high standards. That is the beauty of the Jaguar E-Type. As I see, it doesn't look like those. It has black and grey front seats, but the rest of the interior is a creamy beige. So I don't know if those are the original seats. They don't look original. They look like a newer generation seat. It doesn't seem to have any. Oh, it does have seatbelts. Hey, that's nice, isn't it? Nice to see not one but two E-types, even if one of them was a newer resto mod E-type. But that's okay too. Resto mods, I think I discussed that before last week, and many times before probably. Resto mods are hit and miss. That one I would say was a hit. Yes, so where's I going? To cars that I saw. I'll get on to something even. I'll get on to, at some point. I will talk about something interesting. It may not be today, may not be tomorrow, but someday. And then probably the last thing I saw, which I'm not seeing in real time, something I saw earlier before recording the podcast, because you never know, we still might see something else while we're wandering around here. Was a 1997 Citroen Xsara 4-door saloon, which to some you probably won't care about. To most probably you won't care about, or I don't know, maybe it'll be a 50-50 split. But it's one of those cars that obviously in period was quite common, and now you just don't see them, because most of them probably fell to scrappage schemes. I don't know how unreliable 90s Citroens were. It's kind of one of the more of those, I think, an unfounded cliche that they're unreliable. I don't think they were reliable at all, because I think they were quite simple. They're probably quite reliable, and that kind of will I say this now, or do I keep a surprise? Not that anyone's going to give a shit. It's probably a bit too new to be considered, but something that I am attending this weekend, we should have a plethora of similar stuff of a similar appeal, if you will. I'm going to the Festival of the Unexceptional, which is in Bourne in the UK, which is just north of London. I say just north of London. It's about an hour and a half drive out of London city centre. I'm flying into Stansted, or I'm flying into Gatwick. I think I'm flying into Stansted because I'm going to London again in the middle of August for a non-car related event. Although I'm going for a couple of days, so I most certainly will indulge in some motoring frivolities, because London is even with its ever increasing restrictions, which I'm going to speak about later on at some point. It's a bit of a mecca for car ogling. God, where was I going for that? Yeah, sorry. So I'm going to the Festival of the Unexceptional this weekend, flying out on Friday evening, staying in a Premier Inn, I believe, and there'll be I'm going for a bit of a rental car roll of the dice, see what we get. I'm sure it won't be anything interesting, so I went for cheap and cheerful. So I'm driving from whichever London airport I'm flying into. I think it's Stansted this time. Driving to my Premier Inn, and then I'll get up at the crack of dawn. I think I don't think it's that far. I think it's like a half an hour drive from my hotel to the Festival of the Unexceptional. I'm going to get there early because I'm flying out then Saturday evening to get back. Just simply because I didn't want to spend more money on another night in a shitty Premier Inn. I think I'll get the full day. I'm going to get in. I think it starts at 9 a.m, so I'll get there for 9 a.m. And I'll get that. I should be able to. I think I'll be able to push it out until about. Well, I think my flight is at. I think my flight's at 9:30, so I'd have to be there. Yeah, I've loads of time. I should get the full experience. When I say the full experience, they do give out awards at the Festival of the Unexceptional, or which would abbreviate to, like we were talking about last week, FOSS, as people seem to have abbreviated the Festival of Speed, which is terrible. So this will be the Festival of the Unexceptional will be FOTU, which sounds like some sort of Japanese cuisine. That's the extent of. It wasn't a very exciting car week in any way, shape or form, both stuff that I did or saw, and even there wasn't really a whole lot of car news really in the last week that I can really think of. What has happened? I was also started off with that stuff about London and the UK. There was a report there that what's the UK Prime Minister? Sorry, fucking lost for words there for a moment because the Viking splash thing drove by me and I got distracted by it. Rishi Sunak. That's the UK Prime Minister now at the moment, isn't it? It's hard to keep track. It's a bit of a revolving door the last few years, UK Prime Minister. He's kind of hinted at an easing of the internal combustion engine ban in the UK from 2030 onwards. He's not quoted saying what that easing will be, and he said he is still steadfast on the stopping of production of new internally combusted engine vehicles from 2030. But he doesn't want to penalise the general public with the move. So I don't really know what that means. I didn't really go into any further detail than that. So I don't know. We'll see. But on top of that, then as well, London Mayor Sadiq Khan. Who's the London Mayor, isn't it? He has also said he was going to be expanding ULEZ areas to the greater London area. ULEZ being the ultra low emission zones, which is a strange one because the cars that can and can't go in and out of these ULEZ zones seems to be a bit of a mixed mash of stuff that should, I don't know. I don't know how they exactly work it out, but he's now saying they're looking at possibly not going on an aggressive expansion. I know none of this really matters to anyone who doesn't live in London, which is, there's probably no one listening to this who lives in London. Or maybe there are, I don't know. There is a E46 325 CI convertible. Is it a manual? No, it's an automatic. Nice to see a larger straight six, which is uncommon. Straight six petrol, which is very uncommon in Dublin. So I know it's not really of any importance to people who don't live in London, but what I suppose it will do is that, like, others, the UK no longer being a member of the EU, but you have to think the EU will certainly have a look at what the UK are doing, and also make considerations. There's an Alfa Brera. The Alfa Brera is a great looking car. I don't care what anyone says. I'm sure it's not great to drive, but as a piece of design, it really is lovely. It's manual. Does it say what engine's in it? It doesn't. Very sooty tailpipes. So it's possibly a diesel. Beautiful looking car. It's got nice wheels. There's a tax disc giving away as what engine's in it. 2.2. Oh, so maybe it is a petrol. Unless was there a 2.2 diesel? I don't know. Off topic again. So I don't know. So so if at least the UK making shifts might mean that the EU will make shifts too. Look, these bans are most certainly going to come in and take a bait regardless, because as it was reported there earlier today, Ireland is going to fall way short of their carbon emission reduction targets that have been set by the EU. So the easy target that is the car will still be in the firing line. But I don't know. I don't really know where I'm going with that. But I'm just reporting news that I read, and then you can make your own assumptions from it. I did study journalism, but I'm clearly an idiot, as I'm sure you're fully aware of. So less serious stuff. Let's get on to more. So when I was scouting, I'll continue with stuff that's actually happened in the motoring world. While they haven't actually released any pictures or any details of the car itself, Alfa Romeo, something's flying at me. Alfa Romeo will be bringing out a new supercar. I think it'll be launched at some stage next week. So no details on it. It's going to be a twin turbo V6 mid-engined Alfa Romeo, which I think we can all agree it will be a great addition to the world. They haven't. As I said, there's no pictures, no actual details on it yet, but they have announced that it is going to be called the Alpha 33. Fair enough, it's a name they use in their past, so it's got some provenance and heritage, but I think we'll all look forward to seeing what that's going to look like. Where am I at time wise, because I've really been, as ever, rambling like a mad thing, so 18 minutes in on this part, and that was 11. So what we 20? So we're 30 minutes in. Not too bad. I'm gonna try and keep it under an hour. I'm pretty sure it will come in at under an hour. Yeah, these walking around podcasts, they're certainly more difficult than when you're just sitting down. But I think I'm making a good effort of it. You can let me know. I know it's still terrible, but that's going to be a common trend. Here's another large 6-cylinder. Well, I say large, but a larger 6-cylinder BMW. It's a E60 523i, non-M Sport. SC. Oh no, it is an M Sport. Automatic as well. Unfortunately, one of those with a manual gearbox would be a nice thing. Ruinous, but nice nonetheless. Sorry, where am I going? Other news, anything else? Oh, I mentioned before that there's a company making I don't know if you can go as far as the rest of them all, but EV rallycross cars for the World Rallycross Championship? I assume it is, because they have Sebastian Loeb driving for them, this team. I can't remember the name it was. I think it's called like Spirit One Racing or something. But yeah, the aesthetic design of them anyway is an homage to the Lancia Delta Integrale rally cars of yore. But they were at an event, I think at Lydden Hill, rallycross event at Lydden Hill at the weekend, and one of the cars caught fire. And it being an battery electric vehicle, it was a ravenous fire. Which first, it was one of the cars, I think it was Loeb's car, went up in the garage of the team, and the fire quickly spread and ravaged his teammate's car, and then it spread as far as one of the team trucks. And apparently it took the fire brigade quite an amount of time to actually put out the fire, and there was a large amount of damage done. Now, no one was hurt, thankfully, but what has happened from this is there has been a pause to rallycross events and a review of how safe battery electric vehicles will be in the rallycross format, because they don't have to go for a significant distance, so they are ramped up for high performance, and the risks that are coming along with that are being reviewed, because while no one was hurt this time, it could have ended very badly, because it was a pretty serious incident, it appears. But we'll keep an eye on that. What else has happened? Oh yes, so this will kind of actually segue with that, what I just spoke about, the rallycross, and what I'm about to speak now will segue me into talking about motorsport. But fucking hell, I'm an idiot. This is terrible. Why would anyone listen to this? But Laurent Rossi, which it kind of swept under the radar a little bit. Laurent Rossi was asked to step down by the board of Alpine as CEO of Alpine, because he's been a bit of a divisive figure of recent, being quite vocal about the F1 team and putting a lot of blame on them for what else. It's a team effort, but putting all the blame on their issues this season, calling them amateurish and stuff like that. Sorry, there's sirens coming now, which I'll get off this street. Yeah, and she's been very publicly harsh towards the Alpine F1 team. He's been very bullish about what the road car division can achieve, which apparently some of the board are kind of like, ease back on the expectations there, Laurent. Don't overpromise and underdeliver. And he's a bit of a, it seemed like, sorry for the sirens. It's a critical care ambulance, so we can't be angry at that. Someone needs some critical care. What was wrong? Yeah, so he's been asked to step down, which I agree with. He seemed like a bit of a dick, who just wanted to be the all-powerful leader, but not really lead any or lend any leadership advice. or be supportive in any way. So he's been told to step down, and former Ferrari Alfa Romeo engineer Philippe Krief has been brought in to steer the ship at Alpine. So it'd be interesting to see how he goes, because I don't know, like Alpine, which it is just a sub brand of Renault, but it's an interesting sub brand. It is essentially what Renault Sport was. They're going to be mostly making electric vehicles going forward, but I think we can all agree that the A110 is a great thing, and my allegiance in Formula One certainly leans towards other teams, but I don't want to see Alpine in the doldrums, and they certainly have been having a bad run of it in the last couple of races. I think they've slipped to be 6th in the championship now. Fucking hell, that Golf is burning. A3 is burning a lot of oil. Woo! My God, I'm choking. We'll get on to Formula One in more detail in a minute. Just saying, while we're talking kind of motorsport, although this isn't a motorsport car, there are links. The ProDrive P25 has been given to some journos to test drive. Unsurprisingly, the reports are mostly positive, because it's a two-door first generation Impreza on steroids, which is always going to be a good thing. 400 plus horsepower, I think, and it's ProDrive. They know a thing or two about setting up a car and building race cars and such. Although this is a road car, expensive thing. I think they're £500,000, more than that, maybe £1 million. They're expensive anyway. But yeah, it's an homage to the P1. Hang on, we have something coming up here. Is it an old BMW? It is. That is an E34. Yeah, E34 5 Series, isn't it? Taking a picture of it anyway. It is. What's that say on the back? It is a 525i. Lovely. I'll take a picture of the back of it as well. There we go. So the ProDrive thing. Like when it was launched, I kind of just assumed. I haven't really thought about it since it's been launched, but I kind of assumed that it was a manual, because obviously the original cars were manuals. The P1 Imprezas of the day, dual clutches weren't really a thing, and anything that did have floppy paddles, automated manuals, were certainly in their early stages of development at that point in time. Getting one in an Impreza wasn't really going to be a thing anyway. I just assumed it was going to be a manual, which was is kind of the resto mod thing, is to have a manual, because manuals are becoming rare, so the resto mod audience enjoys a good manual. But it's a six-speed sequential, and they've gone kind of very late 90s, early millennium WRC on it. It's a paddle sequential, but it's one paddle on the right side of the steering wheel, and you flick it. You pull it forward to go up gears and flick it back to go down, which I'd say would take a while to get used to. But I don't know. I'm sure because like these are low volume cars for very rich people. I don't know if you could ask your local ProDrive dealer, if there was such a thing, that you want a manual gearbox version rather than the sequential. I'm sure there's money can buy you anything, is what I'm trying to say. So I'm sure if you really wanted one, I'm sure something could be arranged. So anyway, that was kind of a tangent off motorsport talk. Other motorsport talk. So as I said last week, I've been finding it difficult to stay on top of all the varying forms of international motorsport that I tried to keep up with at the beginning of the year. But I did keep my eye on the WRC this weekend, because it was an absolutely dreadful weekend weather-wise. So I did go see Oppenheimer and Barbie though, but I won't get into that because I'll go completely off topic again. Oppenheimer's great, Barbie is okay. I'll leave it at that. But yeah, I did keep my eye on the WRC, which was in Estonia, and it was a bit of a whitewash. Kalle Rovanperä, son of Harry Rovanperä, for those of a Gen X, late millennial, early millennial age will remember. From back in the 90s and early millennium of WRC. So he's son of Harry Rovanperä, Kalle Rovanperä, absolutely ran away with Rally Estonia. I think he was his second place was Thierry Neuville in the Hyundai, and I think Kalle was nearly a minute ahead of Thierry Neuville, and it also gave Kalle Rovanperä an extended lead in the Drivers' Championship. I think he's well over 50 points ahead of Neuville in second, and I think it's I'm not sure if Lappi is third or if it's Sebastian Ogier. Sebastian Ogier isn't doing the full campaign, but I was having a look there. But like the only one he hasn't done was the previous round, the Safari Rally. But yeah, Kalle absolutely dominated Rally Estonia, and he's now taking a pretty commanding lead in the championship. So I'm going to try and keep on top of the World Rally Championship, because it is great. It is great. I did notice actually, to watch Formula 1, which I'll talk about now momentarily. To watch Formula 1 because you can't get F1 TV in Ireland. Thank you, Bernie, for putting these legacy contracts in with shitty TV broadcasters. And I don't want to fork out for a full Sky package. So I've had to resort to using Now TV. Now I know there are other less legitimate ways to watch sport and F1, but I don't like the unreliability of those options. So at least with Now TV, I know it's for the most part going to work, and I can watch it. I can watch it on my phone, and I can be anywhere at any time and catch my live Formula 1. But where was I going with that? Oh yeah, I noticed. So I've got the sports package, which if only I was interested in more sports, because that gives me all the Sky Sports stations, and I don't watch any of them. But if you spend a little bit more money, because I think I pay nearly €40 a month for Now TV. If you go for the Sports Plus package, which I don't know, will probably add more onto the bill, you can get BT Sport, and BT Sports, I don't know, 5 or whatever, do actually show live coverage and extended highlights of the WRC over the whole entire weekend, which would be a nice thing. But yeah, I can't be spending any more money on streaming services. So anyway, where was I going? Formula 1. So the Formula 1 was at the Hungaroring weekend just gone. The biggest, as I mentioned previously, the biggest news story going into the weekend was the return of Daniel Ricciardo and the ousting of Nick de Vries from AlphaTauri. And obviously the pressure was going to be on, because if Danny didn't perform, although I think you would have to give him a race or two to fully prove himself. But the way the world works these days, if he didn't perform and beat Yuki out of the gate, the critics will be on him like a lamb to the slaughter. Sorry again, I'm burping. Still the aftermath of my delicious sandwich. But he did. He in practice. The practice was very hit and miss. Another factor of the Danny Rick thing as well is that people are saying it's also it's going to be a test bed as to who takes the second Red Bull seat. With people saying Perez is on thin ice because he's had a difficult time of it recently. So yeah, free practice. The first practice was wet, and I think it was only 4 minutes in to free practice 1. Perez stuck the Red Bull into the wall, which wasn't great, which curtailed FP1 because the red flags were brought out and it was wet. So there wasn't much to be gathered from free practice 1. Free practice 2 again was a bit of a misnomer, because people were doing altered runs because they didn't get a lot of time in FP1. But anyway, when it came down, when push came to shove, qualifying, so they were trying out a new format in qualifying this weekend as well. That you had to, it's in an attempt to reduce the amount of tyres they bring to each race. What they decided to do is that you have to use the hard compound in Q1, you had to use the medium compound in Q2, and you had to use the soft tyres in Q3. And what they hope this will do is I think that works. It makes it so that each driver has 2 less sets per weekend. I think overall it works out at 3,800 less tyres being transported around the globe per season, which obviously in weight terms would be significant, and that means then less CO2 generally in the manufacturing, blah blah blah. It's only been trialled so far, but what it did is so in free practice, people were being a bit cagey because they wanted to try and save tyres for qualifying in the race. So it kind of minimised the amount of running that was done in practice. So for people at the track, that probably wasn't great. But then what it did do is the forcing cars to use compounds in each qualifying session did end up giving us a bit of a mixed grid, because you really had to make a decision whether you were going to set up go aggressive and set up the car for qualifying or set up the car for the race, which gave us a surprise pole sitter out of nowhere. Lewis Hamilton managed to get pole position. I think he beat Max by, was it 0.3 or was it 0.003, and it was a very close margin. He got on pole by with Max in second, who had a scruffy last lap. Then again, probably could have done better, but Lando Norris, continuing their very good form at McLaren, managed to get third. His teammate Oscar Piastri was fourth. Fifth was... Who was fifth? Oh, Perez, I think. No. Who was fifth? Was it Leclerc? No, it wasn't Leclerc. Actually, I can't remember now. Anyway, yeah, it's the 2 Ferraris were like 7th and 8th, I think. Perez was 9th. Anyway, sorry. It was a mixed-up grade. Like George Russell went out in Q1. He ended up qualifying 18th, I think. Danny Rick managed to... He beat Yuki Tsunoda. Yuki didn't get out of Q1. Danny made it to Q2 and he qualified 13th. So his first port of call, he executed it pretty well. Anyway, then, so we had a bit of a mixed-up grid going into the race, which gave a lot of, added to the hype going into the race. But then from lights out, Max took the lead. Piastri, while like Norris was trying to battle with Max and Lewis going into the first corner, Piastri went around, overtook the inside line going into the first corner and managed to take both Lewis and Lando, and almost getting up alongside Max going into the first corner. So he managed to get into second at the start. Lando stayed in third, and Lewis dropped back to fourth from pole, which wasn't great. And then there was a mixed mash of tyres. Some people were starting on the hards, like Perez, and a few others further down the grid, and Russell. And then there was a mixture of soft and mediums. But anyway, it ended up being a 2-stop race for everybody, which was good again. Which does give an opportunity to mix things up. But after Max took the lead, there wasn't a whole lot then of exciting racing, to be honest. It was a bit of a damp squib. It was okay, but it was a decent enough race compared to some others this season. At the first stops, Lando he pitted first, so he managed the undercut and he got ahead of Piastri, which some people were kind of going, oh my god, they disadvantaged Oscar and he's getting penalised again, like service on. But initially you could have agreed with that, but then like Lando ran off into the distance and was he ended up being a good 30 seconds ahead of Piastri at the end, and Piastri dropped back to 5th by the end of the race. Still a decent effort by him, considering he is still a rookie. He is holding his own. There aren't that many. There's a couple of rookies on the grid. There's Piastri, there's Sargent. Do you have any other rookies? Anyway, he's definitely he's having a good season. He's having a good season. He's having a better season even than some non-rookies, is Piastri. But then, yeah, so... also at the start, Guan Yu Zhou, sorry, Tatsu was 5th. Guan Yu Zhou had a great qualifying. Alpha had a great qualifying. I think Bottas might have been 8th or 10th. He was in Q3 anyway, Bottas as well. But from 5th, Guan Yu Zhou had a terrible start, completely bogged down and fell back. And then going into the first corner, he ran into the back of Danny Rick, who in turn then kind of caused the two Alpines to collide. So the Alpines were kind of an innocent party, as was Danny Rick. So when the two Alpines collided, the damage was so bad to two cars, they had a double DNF. So that goes back to the troubles I was discussing that Alpine are having of late. A double DNF, not great. And I think they've slipped back to the 5th. So we have Red Bull, Aston, Mercedes. I think they might have fallen behind McLaren, so they might be 6th. Anyway, they're having a dismal time. And also then for Danny Rick, after him qualifying 13th, that put him last on the road, which was 18th, with the two Alpines gone down. So he had to pit early because of that incident he had. He switched from the mediums onto the hards. He did a very short stint on the hard tyre. He wasn't really feeling it. I think he did 11 laps on the hard. And he pitted around, I think it was lap 30, to go back onto a second set of mediums. And he actually managed to take those mediums to the end. And he finished 13th. Again, finishing ahead of Yuki, despite being pushed down to the back of the grid at the start. And finishing where he qualified again, despite that incident at the start. So I don't think the AlphaTauris would have been fighting for points anyway, because there was only 3 retirements in total, and the two Alpines and Sargent. Then after a spin, they retired the car a couple laps before the end. And the Williams, I don't think they would have been fighting for points, because the points-based positions were filled up by the top 6 teams, top 5 teams even, 6. So Perez started 9th. He managed to bring recovery drive. He managed to get up to 3rd. He was catching Lando for 2nd, but he didn't quite have what it took to get him in the end. So it was Max, Lando, Checo. 4th was Lewis. 5th was... Who was 5th? Oh, Piastri. 6th was... Was it Russell in the end? I think Russell managed to get back up to 6th. Yeah, he did, didn't he? Russell... Russell he got 6th because Charles Leclerc got a 5-second penalty for speeding in the pit lane. He was speeding in the pit lane, and then when he actually stopped, they had a sticky left rear wheel, and the pit stop was nearly 10 seconds long, which doesn't sound like a lot of time, but that's a long time in F1 pit stops. So he got a 5-second penalty, and Russell finished, I think, with 3.5 seconds behind, or actually less than that. He was quite close to him, but about a second or so behind Charles. But because Charles had the penalty, he leapfrogged him. So Russell was 6th, Charles was 7th, Sainz was 8th, 9th was... Who finished 9th? Points. Who was in the last point? Oh, sorry. 9th was Alonso, and 10th was Stroll. Aston Martin seemed to have fallen backwards somewhat. I don't know whether it was like teams around them, McLaren, to McLaren mostly, and to an extent to Mercedes, have taken a bit of a leap forward. And ever since they brought in new tyre compounds at Silverstone, which seems to have had an effect on the Aston Martin as well. So what has been a very promising opening this season for Aston Martin, they seem to be going backwards. Then probably the biggest story, well, I'll say, like the one that people ran with the most, because again it wasn't the most exciting race that was ran with afterwards, was on the podium, the infamous Hungarian Grand Prix. They had these lovely porcelain trophies. Lando has a tradition when he isn't, because he's had a few podiums now, he smacks the champagne bottle off the ground, so it gives it an increased spray, as they spray the champagne on the podium. He smacked it off the top step, as he normally does, but that caused Max's winner's trophy to fall over and smash. and that was kind of then the ha 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 social media hashtag viral news story that's kind of been circulating the last couple of days, because nothing else major really happened. So that was the Formula One. It was a double header. So Spa is this weekend. Spa is always great, just because it's a fucking epic, if not the most epic racetrack on the calendar. It does have a tendency to rain in Spa, although thankfully Europe is going through a bit of a heat wave at the moment, because I think everyone would kind of like a dry race, because a few years ago they weren't even able to have the race, it was that rainy. But obviously that Dutch driver who, this is terrible, I can't quite remember his name, that young Dutch driver in Formula something or other, sorry, that's very disrespectful, but we all know who I'm talking about. That poor young lad, that 18-year-old driver who died in Spa a couple of weeks ago during a wet race, has caused a lot of concerns about the track. So while no major changes have been made to the track, I think at the very least people are going to hope it's dry, because if it's a wet race, that could get a bit controversial and a bit scary and a bit dangerous. So let's hope for a dry and safe weekend at Spa this coming weekend. No doubt Max will run away with it, because he had an incredible race there last year, starting from the back of the grid after a dismal qualifying, and he went on to win the race nonetheless. But it's usually great racing throughout the grid at Spa, I say, because the nature of the track lends itself to good racing. So we look forward to Spa this weekend. So I'll be back Saturday night, so I'll be able to watch the race in the comfort of my own home on Sunday after going to Fotu. So that's really all we have to look forward to. Well, I say only look forward to. I have a relatively entertaining weekend lined up with all of that. I'll wrap up my unbelievable ramblings, because I'm on 45 minutes now on this part and about 11 minutes, so we're just under the hour, thankfully. I don't have any recommendations, because I realised I didn't write anything down, any classified songs or YouTube channels off the top of my head. YouTube channels, what have I been watching recently? MKBHD, just off the top of my head. He's a very successful YouTuber. You're probably well aware of him. He does tech reviews. Check him out. One of his most recent viral videos, he bought an unboxed first generation iPhone for $40,000, which is a lot cheaper than a 4GB unopened first generation iPhone sold at an auction in the US there a few days ago for $190,000. So you kind of got a bit of a bargain there. Classified find of the week, I don't know. There's a Dave Matisse on Dundee, and song of the week, just because it was the last song I listened to before I started recording this podcast. Deftones, Change, Bracket in the House of Flies, but the acoustic version of the special edition of White Pony. Check that out. Okay, so I'm going to stop rambling now, because I'm very much pushing the hour. Thank you for listening to this absolute bollocks. I'll try and improve and have less bollocksology going forward. But if you have listened, I love you very much, and be safe, be well. I'll talk to you again soon. Bye.